Welcome to the Narrative Mindset Podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, I would appreciate it if you went back and viewed previous episodes when you get time. We're all just trying to hold on to something soft in a hard world. There was this moment the other day, driving down 8 Mile, where it hit me that everybody in this city moves in pairs. Not romantically, not even as friends, more like survival buddies. The person who keeps you from drifting too far into the ditch. The person who makes the noise of a life tolerable. And instantly, in that little spark of a thought, I felt George and Lennie sitting in the passenger seat with me, like two ghosts of American loneliness. Detroit humidity fogging the window shield. Their silence heavy, but familiar. People always forget the real tragedy of mice and men. It's not the ending, it's the beginning. It's the fact that Lennie never stood a chance in a world built like a mousetrap factory. And George, he's every man who took responsibility. He was never ready for it, but carried anyway. Because who else is going to do it? Sometimes you end up protecting someone because protecting them is the only thing keeping your own heart from rusting. I'm thinking about that as a guy weighs me down for a late night ride. He's huge, tall like a myth, shoulders like a misplaced barn door. And he steps into my car with this soft, almost childlike apology for existing. Sorry, man. Didn't want to scare you. His voice cracks on that last part. And suddenly, I'm staring at a modern Lennie. A guy who's built like a blockbuster villain, but talks like he's borrowed somebody else's gentleness. The world breaks people like that. And it usually breaks the ones beside them too. I put the car in drive. The city lights stretching ahead like a long road of almost dreams. And I started to wonder, in every story, is there always one person holding the leash of someone who doesn't know how to survive the world? Or worse, someone who knows too well that the world won't let him survive. The world doesn't look like gentle giants. We're rolling through downtown, past the boarded up storefronts, pretending they'll reopen someday. And this dude, this modern Lennie, keeps staring out the window like he's afraid to touch the city with his eyes. Like even looking is something he might break. People like him always shrink themselves. It's wild. The biggest bodies often carry the smallest confidence. Society teaches them early. Your strength is a threat. Your kindness is a liability. And I'm thinking about Lennie with that damn soft obsession. Mice, puppies. Anything gentle enough for him to ruin without meaning to. That's the part that always stuck with me. Not the crushed things, but that he loved softness so much, even when the world never gave him any. You know how messed up it is that if you're born rough on the outside, but soft on the inside, life treats you like a malfunction. But if you're soft on the outside and rough on the inside, the world rolls out the red carpet. Anyway, the guy in the back seat starts talking. You ever feel like you ain't supposed to be nowhere? Like you can't get right no matter how hard you try? The way he asked it, almost whispering, sounds exactly like Lennie asking George if they can still get that little house, the one with the rabbits. The dream that kept him alive. The dream that George held on to because it was easier than telling him the truth. Everybody's got their own version of the rabbit farm. A fantasy to distract them from the fact that their life is being squeezed by forces they don't understand. I tell him, yeah, man, more than you think. He nods slow, like he's processing that bit by bit. Like the world doesn't usually give him permission to feel anything. And suddenly I realized something. George must have known every day of his life. Protecting someone isn't just about keeping them safe. It's about keeping them human in a world that keeps trying to turn them into a problem. The dangerous weight of needing someone. The ride that keeps going, and the car feels quieter than it should. Not silent, more like the kind of quiet that forms when someone's trying not to cry but hasn't given up yet. That thin, trembling quiet. He shifts in the back seat, big hands fidgeting with the fabric of his jacket. Lennie hands. Hands made to build something or accidentally destroy it. I just wish somebody would stay, he says. And man, that hits harder than any plot twist Steinbeck ever wrote. Because that's the real danger of being a gentle giant. Not the strength, not the size, but the dependence it creates. Lennie needed George so much it became a gravity field, a pull nothing could escape. And George, for all his complaining, needed Lennie, too. Needed to be needed. Needed purpose. Needed someone who believed in a better life, even if that belief came from a childlike place. The guy in my back seat, he's the same. He needs someone to anchor him, someone to guide him, someone to translate the world's meaningless into something he can understand. And the world, The world punishes people who need that too much, calls them too sensitive, too slow, too emotional, too attached. Like those are crimes. I tell him, needing someone ain't weak, bro, but choosing the wrong someone can break you. He nods again, but this time it's slower. He's rolling my words around like marbles, smooth, heavy, confusing, like he's trying to figure out how much truth they can hold without cracking. Then he says, I just don't want to hurt nobody. And that's the line that turns my stomach. Because Lennie said the same thing, just in a different way. People who fear hurting others are usually the ones who've been blamed their whole lives. People who apologize before they speak. People who walk like the ground is made of breakable promises. I look at him in the rear view and I see something that scares me a little. He's one misunderstanding away from disaster. One bad moment. One wrong environment. One person who pushes him too far or panics too fast. Because gentle giants don't stay gentle if the world corners them. That's the tragedy. I take a slow breath. Listen, I say. You ain't dangerous. The world just ain't built for people who feel things deeply. He looks out the window again. Eyes cloudy. Like he's watching dreams drift off in traffic. And I'm thinking, George couldn't carry Lennie forever. But damn, nobody should have to walk through life alone. Dreams that burn too bright. We keep driving, and the streetlights are starting to blur together. Like the city's trying to melt time down into one endless stretch. And I keep thinking about their dream. Lennie and George's little patch of land. The rabbits, the safety, the quiet. That dream was so simple, so fragile, so perfect it hurt to even look at. And that's the thing about dreams. They burn too bright in a world that prefers shadows. The harder you chase them, the more visible they are, the more dangerous they become. I glance at the guy in the back seat again. He's fiddling with the edge of his hat, like he's memorizing its shape in case the world takes it away. And I realize he's carrying a similar dream. Not rabbits, not a farm. Something soft he can't quite name. Something he's trying not to lose. We're all like that, I think, trying to hold on to something small, warm, alive in a world that keeps telling us to let go, move faster, harden up. And I start thinking about George, how every step he took, every word he muttered to Lennie was a delicate balance. Protecting someone too much can choke them. Protecting them too little can kill them. Life doesn't give you instructions. It just hands you a map with half the roads missing. I tell the guy, quietly, sometimes dreams aren't about getting there. Sometimes they're about walking together. He doesn't respond right away. He just nods, slow, like he's learning that sentence, storing it somewhere safe. And then the car hums along the asphalt, and I feel that quiet pressure in my chest. The same one George must have felt the night he made his choice. The weight of responsibility, the weight of love, the weight of knowing the world doesn't care if you're gentle. And sometimes being gentle is the cruelest thing of all. I look out the window and see a flickering neon sign across the street. It reads, "Open 24 hours." And I think the world keeps spinning, keeps humming, keeps expecting everyone to fit. But some people never fit. Not because they can't, because they refuse to lose their softness, even if it kills them. And that, right there, is the tragedy. The city starts to empty out as we drive further. The hum of traffic fading into a kind of silence that presses on your ears. I notice the guy in the back seat is quiet now. But it's not peace. It's the kind of quiet that weighs you down. The prelude to something breaking. I think about Curly's wife. She isn't a warning in the story. She's the personification of frustration, loneliness, desire, and danger all rolled into one. And in my mind, she's not a villain. She's a ghost wandering the edges of people's lives, searching for warmth in a place that refuses it. People don't know how to hold on to each other, I say, almost to myself. They don't even try. They just scratch at the surface, like it'll be enough. The guy turned slightly, like he heard me but didn't want to acknowledge it. I can feel it though. The same tension George must have carried. The knowledge that the world will always push and squeeze and tempt. And if you're too soft, if you're too trusting, someone's going to get hurt. Maybe you. Maybe someone you love. And that's the part nobody ever talks about. The quiet collapse. Not the dramatic public kind. The kind that fills headlines. But the private, internal implosions that happen when you try to love in a world that doesn't teach people how to receive it. I think about Lennie and George sitting by the riverbank, the sun dipping, water lapping at the edges. That's when life feels calm. But calm is a lie. Calm is the breath before the storm, the silence before the crash. And George knows it. That's why he carries the weight he carries. The guy in the back seat fidgets again. The tension in his shoulders, like he's bracing for a blow he doesn't see coming. And I know he's thinking about the same thing, that no matter how careful you are, life has its own plan for breaking you. I glance at him and mutter, sometimes surviving ain't about strength. It's about knowing when to let go. He doesn't respond, but he's listening. I can feel it in the slight slump of his spine, in the way his hands stop twitching. And that's enough for now, because sometimes the quiet moments of understanding are the only things keeping the fire inside from burning out. The streets have gone almost completely dark now. Streetlights flicker like they're giving up, and the world feels softer, but heavier at the same time. That's the thing about darkness. It doesn't erase, it magnifies. Every worry, every fear, every unspoken thought gets bigger, closer. I think about George sitting with Lennie by the river, the air thick and still. George's hands must have trembled when he raised the gun, but not from fear. No, from love. Love that's too heavy to bear. Love that's cruel because the world is cruel. Mercy, that's what it was. The hardest thing anyone can do is choose mercy when the world would rather punish, ignore, or exploit. And George carried that weight because he loved someone who could not survive the world as it is. The guy in the back seat shifts. I can feel the tension in him, like he's holding on to something too big for his hands. I think he understands, even if he can't put words to it. Some truths aren't meant to be spoken. They're felt. I whisper, sometimes saving someone means letting them go in a way the world wouldn't understand. He doesn't look at me, but his hands stop fidgeting. I can feel the quiet click of comprehension, like a lock turning inside his chest. And I realize that mercy isn't about kindness. It's about courage. The courage to carry pain for someone else. The courage to be hated for doing what's right. The courage to make a choice that breaks your heart because it might save theirs. The city hums around us, indifferent, unaware. But in that car, in that moment, the world slows just enough to let the weight settle. Let the lesson sink in. Let the fire in both our hearts flicker without burning out. Sometimes, mercy is the only fire that matters. We're moving slower now, like the car itself has started carrying the weight of the night. The hum of the engine is the only sound, but even that feels muted, like it's waiting for something to happen. And I start thinking about the river again, the one George and Lennie sat beside. Quiet, reflective, patient. The place where the world seems to pause, even if only for a second. I imagine Lennie staring into the water, trying to understand it, trying to understand himself. And I realized that that's the thing about people like him. They see the world as it is, without the filters everyone else uses. That clarity can be beautiful, but it's dangerous. People don't like the truth staring back at them, especially when it's big, soft, and uncontrollable. George's voice would be the only anchor, always reminding, always guiding, always carrying the burden of knowing the world isn't built for kindness. Not really. And yet, despite all that, George keeps walking with him, keeps talking to him, keeps dreaming. Even when the dream is fragile as a soap bubble about to pop. The guy in the back seat says nothing, but I feel it. He's listening. Every word, every pause, every glance at the passing city. He's absorbing it all, understanding the gravity of looking after someone who can't survive the world alone. And it hits me. The tragedy isn't in the end. The tragedy is in the constant, exhausting act of trying to protect the ones you care about. Knowing you might fail. Knowing the world is always ready to break them in ways you can't predict. But maybe, just maybe, the river teaches something different. That even if everything gets broken, even if the current drags you under, there's a quiet persistence to life. And that persistence is enough to keep hope alive for a little while longer. We keep driving. Lights flickering fast. Shadows stretching long across the dashboard. And I think about how George must have felt. How anyone carrying someone else's heart in their hands must feel. Tired, scared, and impossibly determined all at once. Because caring in a world like that is both a gift and a weapon. The night feels heavier now. Like every street and alley is holding its breath. I glance at the back seat, and he's quiet, but not asleep. He's the kind of quiet that's more like thinking out loud inside your own skull. Unsettled, searching, trying to figure out where it fits in the mess of the world. And I think about the fragile threads that hold George and Lennie together. It's not trust alone, not even love. It's a combination of routine, memory, tiny acts of patience, and the unspoken acknowledgement that neither of them would survive without the other. I can see him tracing those threads in his mind. Maybe he doesn't realize it. But the way he holds on to small dreams, small kindnesses, mirrors Lennie's hands grasping a puppy. Not out of ownership, but out of need. Need to feel something gentle in a harsh, unyielding world. We pass a shuttered diner, its neon sign sputtering weakly. I think about Curly's wife and the way she haunted the ranch. Not evil, just desperate. Looking for warmth where no one thought to offer it. And I realize the tragedy isn't just in her story, or Lennie's, or anyone's. It's the repetition. How human desire, kindness, and failure keep cycling through the same spaces over and over until someone finally notices. The guy in the back seat shifts again, restless, tracing invisible patterns on his jeans. He's searching for something solid, something real to hold on to. I don't tell him this, but he's doing the same thing we all do, trying to thread the fragile pieces of his life into a shape that won't snap under pressure. And I think maybe that's the only victory anyone ever gets. Not safety, not wealth, not fame. Just the chance to hold the fragile threads long enough to see them through the night without breaking completely. I reached up and adjusted the rearview mirror, catching his eyes for a moment. There's a spark there, small and trembling, but alive. And I realize he'll survive the night. Maybe not forever, maybe not unscathed, but alive. Sometimes that's enough. The city is quieter now. The kind of quiet that presses against your ears and makes you feel the weight of your own heartbeat. I glance at the guy in the back seat. He's staring out the window, eyes wide, hands folded over each other, like he's trying to hold himself together. And I think about George, about the weight he carried every single day. Not just the weight of Lennie, but the weight of knowing the world would never bend for him. The weight of responsibility, love, and fear, all wrapped into one relentless knot. I tell the guy, quietly, almost whispering, some weights you can't put down. You just got to carry them as best you can. He doesn't respond, but I can feel him leaning into the truth of it. Some people never get relief. Not really. They move through life with the invisible burden of someone else's survival on their shoulders. And the world doesn't care. The world never cares. We pass a street where the neon lights flicker weakly. And it reminds me of the night George knew he had to make a choice. The kind of choice that leaves scars, even if no one else sees them. The kind of choice that makes you question everything about mercy, love, and justice. He shifts again, fidgeting like he feels the weight of himself, like he's carrying something too big for his body, but refuses to set it down. And I realize that's the tragedy of gentle people in a hard world. They carry the world's weight quietly, so quietly that no one notices until it's too late. And maybe that's the lesson George wanted us to see. That sometimes love isn't loud. It isn't triumphant. It isn't celebrated. Sometimes love is the silent, impossible act of holding someone else up while the world keeps trying to crush them. I let the words hang in the air because they're heavy enough to sit on their own. We're nearing the edge of the city now, where the streets thin out and the buildings sag like they've given up on themselves. I look in the rearview mirror and catch him tracing the edges of the sea with his fingers. Quiet, thinking, and I realize he's doing the same thing Lennie did. Searching for some kind of shelter, some safe space that doesn't exist except in your head. George must have known there's no real shelter for people like Lennie. Not really. The world always finds a way to remind you of your limitations, your fragility, your dependence. And yet, he carried on. He carried on with patience, with love, with the kind of quiet determination only someone who knows they have no other choice can have. I tell him softly, sometimes the safest place is inside someone else's care. And sometimes it's inside yourself. He nods lightly, almost imperceptibly, like he's learning a lesson he never asked for. And I know that feeling, of holding on to someone else while trying to keep yourself from falling apart. It's the kind of weight that shapes you, even if it breaks you sometimes. I glance out the window at the dim glow of streetlights fading behind us. The city feels like it's breathing slowly now, tired, indifferent, but somehow still alive. And in that quiet, I think about George and Lennie, about hope and mercy, and the fragile threads of human connection that keeps us from vanishing completely. And I realize the truth. The world doesn't give you a choice in carrying these weights. It only gives you the courage to try. Sometimes that's all any of us can do. We left the city behind, or at least the part that feels alive. The streets are empty, shadows stretching long and thin across cracked pavement, flickering under the sparse streetlights. I glance at him one last time, the guy in the back seat, and he's still quiet, staring out the window like he's memorizing the world before it disappears. I think about George and Lennie, about the riverbank, the dreams, the choices, about mercy, love, and the unbearing weight of caring for someone the world refuses to understand. And I realize the story isn't in the ending. It's in the carrying that never stops. The holding on that's not heroic, not applauded, but necessary. There's a silence between us, thick and heavy, but not empty. It hums with the echo of every step George ever took, every hand Lennie ever touched, every dream too bright to survive the world. And in that silence, I see the truth. The world may be unkind, cruel, and indifferent, but caring, protecting, hoping, loving, that's the quiet rebellion that keeps embers alive. I pull the car to a stop. The engine purrs, fading into the night. He turns to me, finally, and our eyes meet for a moment. No words are exchanged. Nothing needs to be said. He understands. Because some lessons aren't taught. They're lived. Some stories aren't ended. They linger, like the river, like the weight, like the soft, impossible threads that hold us together. And as the night stretches on, I let the quiet settle, knowing that carrying on, even in silence, is sometimes the bravest act of all.